Hey, welcome to Thursday's Tint Wisdom. My name's Eric, and Thursdays we do the live stream on Facebook. It's the Plus Guest Edition. So every Thursday we have a guest. Today's guest is with me. It is Harry Rahman from Veloce Innovations. Thank you so much, Harry, for joining us on this Thursday.
Eric, good to be here.
Good to have you. So before we jump in, first thing I like to do is a little audio video check. So let's check with our viewers, and if you could just leave a comment if the audio and video sounds good or close to good, and then we'll jump into the interview. We have Christina in here. Thank you, Christina, for joining.
Hey, Christina.
Cool. Christina says it sounds good, so I feel like that's good enough to move forward. So let's jump into this. So, Harry, for those out there who may not know you or may know you but not know everything about you, why don't we start off by talking about like who you are, where you got started in the window film, what you did before the window film, and so on. I know you have 19 years in the window film industry and about 44 years experience overall, right, in life?
Allegedly, according to my wife, it's a little bit less than 44 in terms of mentally, but yes, I'm 44.
All right.
Larry, thank you. Thanks for these Tint Wisdom interactive sections, the live sections that you do. Really change and make them interactive. So I really like what you're doing. I like the topics that you're bringing forward as well. So a little bit about me again, Harry Rahman. Started in the window film industry about in 2001, I believe, early 2001 it was, or late 2000, I don't remember exactly. And prior to that, I used to work for a company that was in charge of franchising. They had some a couple of Taco Bell locations. They had some Shell Oil stations, some Texacos, and so forth. So my degree is in marketing from the University of Houston, and I also have a minor in management. So marketing and sales, Eric, have always been fun. So needless to say, when I got to all my marketing classes, I had great grades, and in all my history and government classes, they were horrible. So don't ask me about history, Eric. So that being said, started in this industry when I started. We were the first company, the company that I worked for, that started selling ceramic window film. So ceramic was really new, and Eric, I heard it all. I heard people say, well, ceramic window film, I've never heard of that. I mean, is it kind of like my toilet, ceramic toilet, or my coffee mug, or I heard it all. It was kind of interesting. And then we also heard, as a new brand comes up, you also get to hear all the things along the lines of, well, they're not going to be around a year from now, or there is no such thing as ceramic. It's just a buzzword. So heard it all. But it was a great learning experience. Fast forward, I was very fortunate to have had a very fruitful career in terms of growth, in terms of the people that I did business with. Some of the dealers that we did business with were just amazing. You saw dealers that were really small, that came into the industry from outside, grew. It was just an amazing experience. And to see these, one of the things that really, fills a hole in my heart, other than cars, is...
Which we're going to touch on.
Oh, we are? Okay, good. So it is just seeing growth, experiencing growth personally, but also more importantly, if your customer can experience growth, then that fills a hole in my heart that is just amazing. So fast forward in 2018, I realized after working for the same company for close to 18 years, I realized that as an employee, I had put in a good 18 years work, but didn't really have much to show for it. I didn't have any ownership and so forth. So I thought, well, I've lived the dream. I treated the company like I owned it, as many of you know, and it was a good company. And I just said, okay, it's time to live my own dream. So I jumped off the bandwagon, and what I did was I started doing research on innovation. I think our industry has amazing products, but I think some of the products, some of the companies are a little slow to invent. And again, invention is not just innovation is not just that, it's not that easy. So I started looking around in different industries, different technologies, and seeing what can we incorporate into the window film industry, and how can we change the window film industry. So I started Veloce in early 2019. And Veloce, by the way, for all of you that, it's not an Italian company, it's not an Italian brand, but Veloce means fast. So the name of the company is Veloce Innovation, which is fast innovation instead of Veloce window films, because the goal of the company and the product portfolio is to be a lot more than just window films. And here we are today. We've been growing at a pretty fast pace. Some great...
At a Veloce pace.
At a Veloce pace, yes. So been very blessed, Eric, and people ask me, is it tough? Is it hard? And I said, no. Is it stressful? And I said, no. It's just long. There's a lot of work required.
Sure. So a lot to unpack there. So you've obviously seen a lot of dealers in the course of your window film career. And, like for me, I know something that I work on is like pattern recognition, being able to spot, things that work, things that don't work. And to me, that's, an accelerated way to learn when you can properly spot what's working, what's not, why it's working, or why it's not working. So I'm curious, over I would assume hundreds, if not over thousands of dealers that you've seen, what are some of the things that stand out to you that you've seen kind of in common with those dealers that you've been able to see that Veloce growth or fast growth is, as you said?
Yes. Eric, the most important thing that I've been, and I really have, he's no longer with us, but there's really somebody who taught me, I would say a mentor without being a mentor when I just saw his actions. In 2001, I visited a company by the name of Sun Tamers in Southwest Florida. And this gentleman's name was Jack Welter, and he was maybe 70 to 75 at that time. And he'd been doing this a long time, very successful business. He had 2 sons. And when I approached him about ceramic technologies in 2001, I had first approached him. I called him on the phone. He was very open, even at that age. Eric, he was so open. He said, all right, come talk to me. When I got there, he was a little surprised that I was only 25 or 24. I don't remember the exact age at the time. So he thought, well, this guy's really young, but he didn't judge me. And he said, okay, Harry, you've got 45 minutes. I'm all yours. He had both his sons, Mike and I forgot his brother's name, sitting there, and he heard me for 45 minutes, after which he said, okay, Harry, what are my requirements? And at that time, we had a $5,000 initial order. I said, Jack, $5,000 is the initial order, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to train you guys about the technologies. I'm going to train you about the installation process. Is a little bit different. And he said, okay, give me a week. Call me exactly a week. So I put that on my calendar. I called him back, and he said, Harry, I've been doing this for over 20 years, right? I like what you said. When can you start? Here's a credit card for $5,000. But one thing I request of you, I want you to come to town, and I want you to take my sons through the selling process and the technology. So in a nutshell, one of the most important things, and I want to be like Jack. I want to be that guy at 70, 75, 80, to whatever I'm healthy, and be very open. So I would say that, that's one of the biggest things that I've seen. Some of the most successful dealers in our industry today are very open. They don't say, hey, we've been doing this the same way for the last 20 years, and we're going to do it the same way. So that is the one person, and the thing that comes to mind is that as a dealer, evaluate and be open. And that's, I took that beyond just the window film industry. When a vendor calls me today about improving our website or anything like that, I give them the time, because if we as salespeople, if we as entrepreneurs expect our customers to be open to us, then Eric, we can't be hypocritical about it. We have to be open to it. So that's the one thing that I see. I've seen a lot of dealers, Eric, go from yay to like yay. right? And I've seen a lot of dealers go from yay to yay, and there's no right or wrong, but there are some things that can think. One of the things that I've seen is that whenever a dealer starts reducing or changing product lines, just the only reason, if that the only reason is to reduce cost, that's a sign to me. That's a sign. Instead of trying to grow revenue,
Right.
Again, I'm saying if the only reason is now, if there are multiple reasons, you're reducing cost and maybe getting a better product or more service or faster service or whatever it is, it's a totally different story. But I've seen dealers. There was one in Florida who I saw just a demise. They were one of my top dealers in the country, right? And they just started going down, and the focus became, well, I'm going to focus on increasing my profitability
Right.
by reducing my cost instead of growing top line.
Right. Right. And instead of, I think, focusing on the customer, because if you want to increase your profit, certainly you have to look at your costs, but you have to look at your customer too and see how can you provide more value for them, and ultimately that's where your money's coming from anyway. So, okay, so you would say staying open to it, or staying open, keeping an open mind, right? And the other one, how would you summarize?
I would say being open. The second thing is also focus in on just, like you said, number one, the customer, but also don't look at profitability just by cost reduction.
Right. Okay.
Look at top line, right? The other thing I would say is systems. One of the biggest challenges in a small business, not in just our industry, in a small business, Eric, is at what point do I, the one-man show, hire my next salesperson?
Sure.
Do I hire that person after I have enough sales? Or do I hire them
ahead of it?
Or do I hire them ahead of it? And honestly, there's no right or wrong answer. Or at what point do I identify when I need? So if you are a small business and you have installers, one or two installers, but not a lot of salespeople, or if you're the only installer, that's something going through your mind, which is and the issue is not just hiring. It's not. The issue is actually the cyclical nature of our business. That's the real issue. If you think about, Eric, hiring people, you can hire people. Right. In the summer, they'll make good money. What happens in the winter? If you're in Chicago, Dallas, if you're in one of the cooler climates, New York, Minnesota, how do you maintain that when the industry dips in such a manner? So that's one of the biggest issues is you have to get beyond systems. Right? Systems are a key part of it. Otherwise, even with Tint, and I'm gonna use Tint as an example. Sometimes for a one-man show or a one-woman show, it's so much easier to say, you know what, I don't need a software. I can easily do it. Why do I have to remember? It's all up in here. I don't need anything. But if you go by that mentality, you're not going to grow. At some point, you have to build a system so that they can be replicated, so that the person coming after you has an idea of what's between these 2 years.
Sure. I mean, you could think like one of the ways, sometimes we discuss with users, like to put things into perspective is like, if you even look at just like your phone has a bunch of numbers saved in it, right? And then with those phone numbers, you have a name attached to them and so on. Why? Because when you need make a phone call, you want to be able to pull it up quickly and make that phone call. You don't want to go like looking, or you don't want to memorize everything. You don't want to remember it. You don't want to have to go home and get it on a piece of paper. You don't want your phone numbers to be at work. You want them in your phone. That's why they're there. And this is no different as far as TintWiz goes. Like, it has all your contacts, all your information in a place so that whether you're one person or whether you're a group of people, it's there, it's easy to access, it's quick and efficient, and so on. So to get off the TintWiz subject, though I do think it's a great subject to talk about, but I definitely 1000% agree with everything you said, but especially those systems, because you get those one-man tint shops who go, well, I'll get a system when I grow. And, the problem, like you said, is that system may be the difference between you growing or not growing. And then second of all, what ends up happening is when you're growing, it becomes more difficult to put systems in place because now you're operating at 100 or 120% capacity. So even like you said, whether you hire after you need the person or you hire ahead of it growth, I think hiring ahead of growth is a much more pleasant way. Yeah, you put out a little money maybe a little earlier than you would absolutely have to, but at least you reserve a little bit of time for yourself to run the business and do the next things that need to be done versus operating at 120% and then trying to add in, you know?
And yes, and Eric, it takes belief in yourself. It really takes belief in yourself. It really
That's
takes
right.
a sacrifice. It really takes a sacrifice. So, I go back to, and I'll throw a plug in for a friend of mine, Jeremy Shapiro. This guy is very, very athletic and so forth. So, if you look at Jeremy, and if you look at, anybody muscular, the way a muscle grows is actually, it tears.
Right.
It actually tears, and then there's another layer that builds on top of it. So there has to be some pain, and there has to be some sacrifice in order to, so you see Jeremy doing all these handstands and stuff. I can't compare myself to Jeremy. He's been doing this so long, and it's so athletic. For me, all I have to do is take the next step. So my point is just that, is that, focus in on what kind of in your control rather than compare yourself to a $5 million business when you're at 200,000.
Start with a push-up. You don't have to worry about the handstand. The handstand will come. Start with a sit-up, start with a push-up, start with a salad.
Yep.
Yeah, that was actually a quote from the week before last Tuesday's Tint Wisdom, which was, don't get over, to paraphrase or butcher the quote, it was, don't look at the whole stairway, just take one step at a time, and eventually you'll make it up that stairway,
And this is where a lot of people really set them up for failure. Don't look at the person on top of the stairwell either.
No, and then because you come up with crazy ideas of how they got there and why they got there, and
then you start comparing yourself to them. Your job is to build a plan to get up the stairwell, and then keep taking the next steps. Keep taking the next steps. The minute you start comparing, Eric, I have some very, very successful friends who have built companies. I just had a friend that sold his company for $26 million within 4 years. His startup capital was less than $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So, but as I look at them, I have, I'm very fortunate that I have to keep reminding myself, you have to build your company. And the reality of it is that I want to build my company focused around making a difference in people's lives. If I can make a difference in people's lives, and if I can make a difference in their businesses and their families, guess what? I'll get to my destiny.
Right. And, I know when learning to ride a motorcycle, one of the things you learn is, you want to look in the direction you want to go. So coming around a turn, if you look forward and you don't look at that turn, you end up going straight and crashing into things. And where you look is where you go. And I just feel like that so applies to business. And, when you look to your future, when you look to your North Star and your goals, you head that direction. When you start looking around you to competitors and so on, or, you end up going sideways and backwards.
The other thing is, set your own goals. You will limit yourself if you base your strategy and your customer focus around a competitor, because now you are surrounded. So if this is their strategy, then guess what? You will better it one or two and so forth. Start off with a blank slate. Start off with what you want to accomplish. So when I started Veloce, I obviously having some experience in our industry, I first started thinking about, how can I one up who's in the market? And then I realized, no, before I even just think about that, I want to go back to what is the purpose? Why did I leave? What opportunity did I see, right? So in the morning as well, for those that quickly get on their phone, and, you've heard this probably a million times, and I'll say it 1,000,001, is when you get to work in the morning, or when you get up in the morning, don't start going over your to-do list. Start off with a blank slate on what you want to get accomplished that day with a clean slate, and then go to your to-do list. Otherwise, you will become an operational monkey, because all you will do is you will focus on the to-do list and things related to that to-do list. I'm not saying don't look at the to-do list. Start off with a fresh approach. Right? Same thing in your business. I don't want you, and even if you've been doing business as a dealer, if you've been doing business for 5 years, 10 years, if you're new, Christina, if you've been doing it for 5 years, 10, 20, I want you to go back to what you started. What was the reason you started that?
My name's Eric, not Christina.
No, I was telling Christina because
I'm just kidding.
She was on there, yeah.
No. Christina was one of the first people who joined the live stream, in case anybody's late and wondering who Christina is. So she was the first
Eric,
one in the live stream.
You do have a feminine touch to you, so I'm sorry.
All right, moving on from there. So before I ask my next question, I do want to just let everybody know this is a social Q&A style live stream. So if you're watching this live, if you're not watching it live, regardless, if you have any questions for Harry or if you have any questions for me, put them in the comments. And then once I get through a couple more questions that I have prepared for Harry, we'll jump into the ones that are in the comments. So thank you all for watching live. And yeah, so moving on from there. What would you say you mentioned that, you left one opportunity that you had a lot of years invested in, and now you're, pursuing your own future with Veloce. What would you say the mission statement is with Veloce? If you had to just compress that down to maybe one or two sentences, what would you say you're trying to achieve with this brand?
Innovative products, innovative marketing, and innovative partnerships. Those are the three things that we want to accomplish, right? So innovative partnerships. What does that mean, right? Today, we hear the word network and we hear the word partnership all along. And it's all about buy from us and you're a partner. You're a partner. You're part of our network. I don't think that that's a one-sided relationship. So we are changing the way we do business with our customers because it is a very different process than just being a customer and here's your product and you are a partner of ours, partner in the sense that you are a strategic partner of ours. So we're changing partnership. Marketing. Our industry has amazing products. It has amazing installers, amazing dealers. I don't think we are the best at marketing. I think that the benefits that our products provide, I think we should have a lot more consumer awareness than we do. So, and then the products. Eric, there are opportunities. What has happened is big manufacturers they're good at innovating and so forth, but their focus has become, first of all, one of the things that has happened is that the companies that own most of the brands in our industry are so big that their focus is not necessarily window film. Their focus, look at 3M. Good company, but they have so many different products. I mean, I don't even know if window film is 1% of their sales, right? So again, amazing company, but its focus is not. So other companies, manufacturers and so forth, their focus has been how do we keep these machines running? Machines are very expensive, right? How do we keep these machines running? We've got to make sure that we can pump out a lot of, what we've done at Veloce, we've partnered up with manufacturers so that we can focus in on marketing, innovation, partnerships instead of those machines running. Today, if you go to the Gucci store and buy a Gucci belt, you don't ask which machine it was made on. You don't ask who made it. You're looking at the design, you're looking at the branding, you're looking at the quality of it.
Sure. So with that said then, how do you foresee, Veloce's, though you're not new into the window film industry, Veloce, like you said, came about in about 2018, yeah? So how do you see yourself staying on that mission statement 5 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road when you are that big manufacturer, whether you're a manufacturer or not at that point or whatever it is? How do you see keeping that same mission statement, that same personal touch with the dealers, that same, staying innovative and so on?
That's a good question. I go back to, what Jeff Bezos said. And that guy is just amazing what he has done and accomplished. The way he's changed life as we know it today, So not when I don't say commerce, I say life. because
Life, yeah.
he's really changed the
Quality of
way.
life has gone up.
Yes.
I mean, he's affected quality of life in so many ways.
So he says something that is, and if you don't follow Bezos, you really ought to look at that. This guy is very simple. One of the things that he says is treat every day like it's your first. What you are willing to do on your first day, right? When I remember when we got our first order at Veloce, I was packing film, and I wasn't packing film because we don't have people in the warehouse. I was packing film because I was excited, Eric. I was excited that we have launched that first dollar coming in. Somebody trusting us with their business, somebody trusting us with our product. So that's one of the most important things: is you don't go away from that first day, that deal. Second thing is, Eric, when I left my last job, I think, it was nothing to brag about, but I didn't spend even 50% of what I made. I didn't leave that job because I just wanted more money. I left that job because I saw an opportunity. I don't live in a fancy house. I really don't have many needs, So for me, the
Don't say you
money.
don't have fancy cars, because we're going to talk about that in a minute.
No, cars are there. Yeah. The cars are different, right? So, but my point to you is that to me, this is not about money.
Sure.
This is not. Don't worry. Don't get me wrong. I love money and I want to grow with money. But it wasn't my motivation of it. Was not one of my motivations. Was, and Eric, this is really personal. And I've got an amazing wife. One of my motivations for starting this business was she works full time. And I wanted her, she's a dentist, I wanted her to be able to back off and work only 2-3 days a week, or 1 or 2 days a week, because she likes to work. But that was one big motivation for starting this company, so that we can be somewhat independent to where she doesn't have to work.
Got it. That makes sense. So I'm going to jump into some questions that came in. Just starting from the most recent, it's actually from Christina. Thank you, Christina. She says, also in one statement, how do you differentiate the quality of Veloce films against other well-known brands?
Good question, Christina. Good question. Look, if there's something I know about quality, it is that in close to 19 years, I was also a part of product development. So I saw a lot of different products being made. I saw the process and so forth. 90%, Eric, 90% of our production is done here in the United States. And it is done at one of the leading facilities in the United States. So we go through rigorous testing, number one. Number two, the companies that manufacture Veloce films that we take our formula to manufacture for us are all very, very solid companies. So Christina, I've done a lot of research, not just on Veloce films, but on many different types of competitors' films over the period of 19 years. In fact, I always say that I could tell you quite a bit about other technologies that we don't even carry. So feel pretty confident that the products are sourced, the raw materials are being sourced from very credible suppliers. The manufacturing facilities are very well equipped and also very big. We are not getting these products made in very small facilities that don't have the experience. And then there's a track record. We look at the track record of the facilities and the companies that are producing for us, and it feels great. Christina, I just put it to you this way: I didn't leave the 18, 19-year-old job to put my reputation that it took me 18, 19 years to build at risk by putting out products that are not good.
Got it. And, one of the things you mentioned was the films being sourced in the U.S. I'm curious, because I really don't know. This isn't a leading question, but, I know a lot of people will, when window film comes up, obviously people say, oh, it's certain films. Oh, that's just made in China. That's cheap Chinese film, or that's cheap Korean film, or this and that. And you seem like a great person to ask. Do you think, you mentioned that yours is sourced mainly or completely in the U.S. Do you think why do you say it's so important, if it's so important for it to be in the U.S., Do you think it's more the negative stigmas and off-name brands and low quality that kind of ruin it for knowing that some films come from outside the country? Do you think it's really important? Do you think it's more of a just thing people, feel?
Eric, it's a deep question, but I want to address it. I want to address it. Just because a product is made in the U.S. does not say it's good quality or bad quality. Or just because
Right.
it's made in Asia or India does not mean it's good quality or bad quality. None of that. The reason I say this is with a new brand, there are obviously always people questioning, okay, where's this product coming from, and who's standing behind it. If our products someday are sourced 50% from the U.S. and 50% from another country, I'd be happy to share that as well. I'm not shy of sourcing products. I just know that the relationships that I felt most comfortable with were initially the capabilities of these companies that manufacture for us, and that's why I brought that up. But there are stigmas. There is the connotation of the cheap Chinese film or the cheap Korean film or the cheap Indian film and so forth. Look, I don't categorize them on where they come from, but I wanted to just share the fact that 90% of our production is done here in the United States.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I feel like some of it's a little,
No, go ahead.
Oh, some of it, I feel like it even carries over from like the cars of the 80s, like cheap, like Chinese cars and so on. Then we saw, oh, wait, those Chinese cars and Japanese cars like last way longer than the American cars. And yeah, I feel like it's such a global market, but, within industries and niches, there's always pros and cons. So
the other thing, is that I don't categorize. I think, if you look at what the Koreans have done with cars on Hyundai, 5 years ago, Eric, me being a big car guy, I would say I wouldn't own a Hyundai.
Right.
Today, I'd happily own a Hyundai.
Right.
They've come a long way. The design, the durability, all of the above.
Yeah. So let me go through the comments. And I know we had a comment. Let me pull it up 1 second. I know we had a comment from earlier today. It wasn't live, so I want to just make sure we get to it before we move on. All right, here we are. So this comment was by Mohammed, and he said in November and December, business cuts down more than 75%, sometimes up to 80%. Is it even worth opening in these months? How do you see, what do you feel the answer to that question is, Harry?
It's, Eric, I don't think you should close. And I'll give you an example. Grocery stores, think about a 24-hour grocery store. Mm-hmm. Do you know that the amount of business that they do between the hours of 10 and 6 in the morning, those 8 hours, is practically nothing. Right? It's not even worth it to keep open. Do you know why they stay open? There are two reasons. Number one is stocking. They get all of their stocking done at night. They focus on that, especially in public areas like in aisles, so that they don't distract the customers. And number two is insurance. By staying open 24 hours, they actually get an insurance break as opposed to 18 hours, right? So what does that mean to the window phone business? There is in your business, there's an inbound flap and an outbound flap, right? So if your inbound flap is full, if you're getting so many calls that you can't even spend any time on this one, if it's flat, it means it's closed. If you're getting so many calls, this stays closed. Mm-hmm. If the calls start going out, the outbound flap should start going up, right? So there's an inverse relationship of how it works. So if your business falls in those months, then a few months before that business falls, you need to be planting some seeds and focusing in on how can I level that out. The other problem that you have, Eric, is you can't lay off employees for 2 months. If you close a month or 2 months, you're going to have to lay off those employees. So it's either you pay them or you go find new employees every year.
It's not practical advice, or closing wouldn't be practical for anyone that has employees, but I'm guessing that maybe Mohammed is a one-man tint shop or something along those lines. Maybe that's where it falls in.
Another thing you could do, Eric, is compliment. So if you're in the film business and this flap, the inbound flap goes down for those 2 months, and you don't know how to get the outbound flap up, then compliment it with a product that is inversely related, that, let's say, in the winter goes up in spike. So go get, there are companies now that have taken on Christmas lights. In the winter, what they do is they go to Christmas lights and stuff. So factor that in and complement that product portfolio.
Well, in Christmas lights, I especially loved when I saw that post, because it's not only a business you're going to actually make money on, and it's just mainly labor, but it's a foot in the door to sell window film. So it just makes so much sense. I really feel like if you're one of those shops that's saying, hey, business is down 80 or 90% of the winter, either you're in like Antarctica and it's like dark, or Alaska and it's dark the entire winter, then I can understand nobody's like literally leaving their home or their cabin. But like if you're in a somewhat like normal city, if it's like relative weather that you can go outside in and so on, if your business is down 80%, you're not getting enough leads. And I know that might be obvious, but what I mean by that is like, these are bigger problems in my opinion. Like you're so small that you become invisible during the winter. And like, you might not have things like frost in your arsenal and security film and graphics and paint protection film and ceramic coating, because those things don't so much slow down during the winter. I really just say to anybody who thinks that like bringing, like Mohammed saying, should I close during the winter? I think you need to go the full other direction and say, I need to embrace how much more potential there is out there, because there is, and you have to believe and move forward. And it's not something that you're going to be able to fix from this weekend to next weekend. It's something that, you need to develop in your business, those additional services, the additional exposure you have, and so on, and awareness. And I think,
So I want to go from the extreme case of closing to even slowing down. So again, guys, we all know the phone stops ringing or starts ringing a lot less at certain times of the year, especially in the winter. So as that inbound flap, which is full in the summer, starts going down, your outbound flap should be going down. You should be planting seeds. You should be planting seeds even before that time comes, so that they start. And
beyond just planting seeds with new customers, if let's just say it's dead AF in November, December, and January, like you have no customers, you have no seeds to plant, and you don't know what to do. Well, these are times I feel like, to beef up your own business, to do those improvements. Get a can of paint, spend a day painting your shop a fresh shade of white. Fix things on your website, update your services, add some pictures to Yelp, make sure your Google's accurate, your Google Local's accurate. Like, these are the times to invest in your business. And whether you get that money back next year, or you get it, next week, like it's going to pay off. So like, use those times, even if it means taking a vacation. If it means you're going to take your vacation in December when it's slow and you're going to work through the summer, there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you think there's no business out there in the winter, I can guarantee you 1,000%, there are some companies that are saying, we are at our max during the winter. I don't know what we're going to do during the summer. And
again, it goes back to staying, Eric, it goes back to staying open. Don't think, hey, I do window film, I'm a window film company. No, you're not, right? You are a business that sells window film.
Sure.
Can you complement that with other products? You bet you can.
Yeah, and especially go ahead.
And Eric, so one of the visions that I had at Veloce that I had shared about 8-9 months ago, we can already see companies trying to replicate that model. But one of my vision for this industry is, and this kind of goes to Mohammed's point, but it also goes to other points, is that my vision for this industry is, we are in the architectural side, we are in the transactional industry. We go to Mrs. Jones's house. We do our house for $4,000. We take the $4,000, and then that is done. It's like buying an egg. You buy an egg, you crack it, and guess what? You eat it, and it's yummy, and you have nothing to show for it, right? So the coatings, Veloce will be releasing several different coatings for several different surfaces that can be sold within a home, and that will can be sold again and again and again. So what you do is now you have the ability to sell one customer multiple products instead of just one window film job that you won't see them until they move or until it goes bad, which films last a long time.
Yeah, and that kind of brings in, with automotive, we've seen shops go from being just a window tint company to window tint paint protection, ceramic coating, and so on. And because customers are looking more for a one-stop shop, this is a great way to get your flat glass customers to become, like you said, ongoing clients. So,
yeah, and even if you don't, I want to throw one thing. Even if you don't take those products on, whether you're auto or architectural, if you complement yourself, you've got, I've got a very good dealer of ours in Naples, Matt Sampier. If you look at what he has done is in certain things like in ceramic coating and so forth, he doesn't do it, but what he's done, he's partnered up with a company that is able to do the ceramic coatings where he does this. So again, the goal is to pool your resources and be able to use that customer and be able to provide them multiple products and so forth.
Got it. Yeah, 100% agree. So jumping back into the comments, kind of working from newest backwards, Paul said ceramic coatings for stainless. So is that, I assume that's in the
Yes.
in the line,
Yes.
yeah?
Yes, sir. The ceramic coating for stainless, and you're going to love the kit, the demonstration kit that we're putting together. It is so simple. I know that we in the window film industry are a little spoiled by all the demonstrations. So putting together an amazing demonstration kit that you can use to show the different coatings and the benefits thereof.
It's all about the demonstration kit, I feel like,
Yes.
It really is all about the demonstration kit because...
So yes, we will have stainless steel products. So one of the things that Veloce is going to be doing more than others is that we are going to be focusing in even more on specialized coatings. Right, as of today, there are many companies, or some companies that have a one-size-fits-all. You can put this on your shoe and on the wall and on this and so forth. So what we're doing is creating coatings that adhere to that particular surface.
So what type of surfaces, just kind of the top ones, would you say will be able to be coated? So you mentioned stainless steel.
Stainless steel, stucco, granite, tiles, ceramic tiles, even glass. You have
so these are inside and outside could be coated then.
Yes, and that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is we want you to look at this. Look at the opportunity. Today, a window film company goes in and looks at the window, right? And they're looking at the window saying, okay, what can we put on it? We want you to look at every single surface. Basically, our vision is, Eric, if you can touch it, we want to be able to coat it.
All right. I like it. So jumping back through the comments, I want to touch on one from Daniel Fuentes. He said, why don't you want to share where the tint comes from? #red flag.
Okay. Look, we have confidentiality agreements with the companies that produce our product for us. And this is a very common thing. And, I don't expect all the dealers to understand this, but in manufacturing, this is a very common thing. If you go, and I'll use cologne and perfumes, if you realize where most of that base material comes from, it's, you have like many different brands, but the base material of where that comes from, there are not a lot of sources for it, right? So our vision is it really doesn't matter where it, but for us, as long as we know it's a reputable company, it may not come from that source tomorrow. If we feel that there is a company that can produce, look, the beauty of Veloce is that we are not limited to our machines. We don't sell what comes out of our garden. We could go to multiple gardens and say, hey, can you grow this for us? Can you make this for us? So forth. So again, we hear this verbiage a lot, Eric, which is, hey, red flag and so forth. And I, again, after most, utmost respect to you, but at the end of the day, in manufacturing, it doesn't always work that way. You can get a lot of things made. Do you know where some of and I'll use Ford or Chevrolet, some of their components are made, or some of their dashes are made? You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean the new transmission that's in the new Ford, the 10-speed, it's a shared transmission from GM and Ford, and they work together to make it. I think, I feel like being somebody who has, been responsible for a lot of window film sales in the past, I can say that I was never concerned with where the film came from. Because number one, I don't even know what that would mean. So if I said, well, where's the film come from? And you say, well, this part's made in Georgia and this other part's made in Korea and we get this piece from China, or it comes from Japan, or it comes from, anywhere, India. I don't know what I would do with that information, because at the end of the day, the way I would interact with window film is I want to know, how does it perform? How's the durability of it? Is it going to last? And of course, the brand and support that stands behind it as a window film dealer, and then also as the same for the consumer. You want to make sure that the consumer's interaction and what's facing the consumer looks good. And of course, you want to have that same great relationship with the company. But its source of origin, I just feel, is so unimportant. And then I want to give you a couple examples. The one that stands out to me the most would be like if you look at Lumar and Formula One. Okay, now this is one brand, right? This is one company. I guess technically it's two brands, but we all know that a lot of the films are extremely the same or similar. So if you buy, Formula One ATC, or you buy, I'm losing the names, maybe Lumar ATC and Formula One Classic or whatever, those are for sure the same film, but you're going to pay a little bit more for the Formula One. Now, knowing that, why would you want to be a Formula One dealer? Well, because the brand pull it has, because the exclusivity and the territory and so on. And that's when it's the exact same film. You still want that premium. You'll still pay for it, and it's still worth it. It's actually worth it. So it's odd to me, I guess, when and I'm in nowhere picking on Daniel, because it's a fair question, but it's odd to me when tinters are so concerned about where did it come from, because I just don't know what you do with that information. I want to know how it performs.
I want to bring up one additional point, right? So it's not just, most people think that it is Veloce or the company that's getting it manufactured that wants the privacy. It's not. It's actually a mutual issue. Even the company that's manufacturing the product wants a level of non-disclosure, because tomorrow, if they're making something with our recipe, right? So there's some very unique products that in Veloce with Cool Touch IR, Clear 70, Glare 15, the Com 40. There's some very unique products. So what happens is they want a level of non-disclosure, because we have agreements in place. So tomorrow, they don't want their dealers coming to them and saying, hey, you make this product for Veloce, can you make it for us? Because they can't make it. Right, so it's actually a mutual thing. It's not that one company wants it or the other.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and that brings a lot of clarity to it. And if tomorrow a video comes out and it shows how Suntech is the same as Formula One, how many Formula One dealers do you think are going to drop Formula One status to become regular Suntech dealers? I bet none, because it doesn't freaking matter where the film came from. It only matters if there's a quality issue, So
sure.
Fair question and fair answer. So going through the comments, Spence, what's up? Thanks for joining. And Jeff, Ryan just joined. Don't know how to pronounce this name, but the last name's Doolin. Harry, shout out from Australia, mate. Been 3 years since I met you in Houston.
Hey, great.
Graham,
good to hear from you.
Graham.
That's awesome. Good to hear from you. Glad you're on live with us.
And Christina had another question. She asked, I'd like to also ask, some tinting companies do everything from residential to automotive to glass design. Some only focus on one area. What is both your recommendations for a company? Attack it all or focus on growing one area?
Again, a good question. And I don't think this should just be from a new company. I think this should also be from companies that are already in existence. Because again, I want you to continue to question yourself. Don't just do automotive because that's what you've done for the last 10 years. Don't just do flat glass because that's what you've done. So I want you to look in the mirror and continue to question yourself on, is this the right thing to do, rather than are we doing it just because we've done it? So, Christina, here's what I would say. I think that the first question you will have to ask yourself is, where are your strengths? Where do you feel you can create the largest amount of awareness? Are you good with designers? Are you good? Are you good with property management companies? Are you good with builders? So you have to ask yourself, what are my strengths? Instead of it'd be like saying, what should you cook for dinner tomorrow? Well, what are you good at making? And what I'm saying is, if you're a start-off business and you want to keep overhead low, and you don't want a space, you don't want a tinter, you don't want the rent, then you can start off small in a residential, in the flat glass business, and start building up your business and move to automotive and so forth. Now, if you're a great tinter and that's where your skill is, or if you are big into car groups and you can go and create awareness for cars, then do that. Taking on everything as a starting company is possible. You just need a decent amount of cash flow for it, because it can wear thin your cash flow. So, but again, it goes back to, what are your strengths and what can you make happen? That's the biggest question.
Yeah. And I think echoing most of what Harry said, I think the first step, if it was me, is, jot down, start to separate the different services you offer now, and separate them by how much time the service takes, how much money the service that makes, and so on. So factor in your time, factor in your profitability, factor in what you like Harry said, factor in the potential in your area, and so on, and try to focus. Even if you're gonna offer all the services, try to put your focus where you're getting that return, because that's going to create margin and profit for you to expand in those other areas, versus maybe doing an automotive job when the flat glass could have brought you more money and led to more flat glass, or so on. So basically, you have to just know what you're working with. Know when you do cars, how much do you make? When you do homes and businesses, how much do you make? Know the potential in your area, and then just do whatever feels right to you. I would say this: no matter what, if you get a phone call and they want tint, I say yes. If it's a boat, if it's a UFO, if it's a piece of glass, regardless of it, say yes. But as far as where you actually focus your time and energy, I think that'll present itself when you look at what's going on. So I want to jump back into the comments. But great question, Christina. Thank you for asking that, because I think that's something everybody's constantly facing. And you might start off in one area, and then the other area starts to grow on the side, and then you're left kind of maybe spread thin. And sometimes it helps to bring it back in when you know where your profitability is, so that you can focus, because wherever you make the most profit in the least amount of time, you're going to be able to use that money to effectively deploy it towards other parts of your business. So that's my advice there. Now, Daniel had said, in regards to the other question, he said, it doesn't matter where it comes from. He's talking about the film. So we're talking about the film origin. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but it matters when people want your money and can't even answer a simple question. So I don't want that question to go ignored. I guess I just thought you said 90% of it's sourced in the U.S. and some raw materials come from outside of the U.S. Yeah.
So 90% of the production is made in the U.S. and it is made, if you want to a little bit further, is made by companies that are older than 30 years, that have been doing this for 30 years. It's made by very, very credible companies. It's made by companies that are, I have to be careful, without giving it. I would just say this, that it is trying to give Daniel some answers without, violating my non-disclosure. These are not companies that started manufacturing yesterday. These are companies that have been around the block, and they are at least 30 years old.
So, and I just kind of want to add a little to that answer, I guess. my advice to Daniel, or how I would look at it if I were you, is, this is the beauty of a free market. So you have Harry's answer. If you get an answer that you like from another tint manufacturer, you like that answer better, and that is enough of a reason for you to carry that film. That's the opportunity you have in there. So, you pick wherever you want. I'm just saying, I can't see why knowing where the manufacturer or who specifically makes the film for you, how that could be an important, an important way to make your decision, I guess. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty of the market, because here's the deal. If somebody comes out and says, this is where our film is made, and they put a pin on the map, and they say, we're going to invite everybody to come in and watch our film being made and put in a box. And if somebody did that, and then that worked, and people were so interested in knowing where film was made that everybody flocked to purchasing film from that company, then everybody would start to adapt that sort of thing. So if that is truly important to you, then go with the company that provides that important information for you. I wouldn't twist the arm of any other company who can't tell you or doesn't want to tell you. Just go. But I'm just saying, I don't think that's an important piece of information. I think the focus, because I think somebody can tell you where it's made, and then it can be garbage film. It doesn't really change anything. So I just think, you pick the company that provides the things that you're looking for in your business.
And Eric,
that's
one more thing is that what most people don't realize is that there's something called product segmentation. So even the best manufacturers in the world make some products in many different categories, from the best to average stuff. So just because it's made at a certain facility does not tell you at which grade that product was coming out. The same way Mercedes makes a C class, E class, A class, an S class.
Of course. Of course. No, that's a very, very valid point. Have you ever sat in an AMG Mercedes, or you've sat in now they have like an A230 or something like that? They're very different cars, okay? One is a Jetta, essentially, and one is an airplane. So, it definitely plays a point. Daniel said it's just nice to work with companies that don't hide anything. That's all definitely a fair point, and that's the point. And that's why I feel like these sorts of open forums where you're able to ask your questions, you're able to say what's important to you, are so important. And that's exactly why we're doing
Daniel,
this.
Look, your point is, again, if that makes something different, if that makes a difference to you, I totally understand. It's a valid, I'm sure. Look, if it's valid to him, it's valid.
I'm sure he's not the only person wondering. You know what I mean? Sure. Dan, working our way up the comments, Dan said, ladies and gentlemen, Harry Rahman has been in the industry. It has been an industry leader for over 20 years. I entrusted his advice many years ago, and my business has grown 10x. And then he said, someone needs to ask, who makes 3M's film? Are you able to answer who makes 3M's film?
Dan, what's Dan's last name?
That's Dan Wubbs.
Wubbs. Okay, awesome.
Wubbs.
Well, Dan, Dan is an amazing guy. I mean, he's actually a friend. Both him and his wife Sherry are friends. They were never even customers of mine. They were really friends. So, Dan, that's a great question, Dan. Look, again, this goes back to, and I won't pick on 3M, but you'd be surprised that the products that you get may not be made where you think they're being made, just because they have a stamp on them that says X, Y, or Z, or M, or P, or T, right? Yeah. Doesn't mean that they're made there. Great point, Dan. Thank you.
3M's another good example, though, because I feel like a lot of people, you're not so concerned, like with I guess from my perspective, I shouldn't speak for a lot of people. I'll speak from my own perspective. I was never concerned where 3M came from. I was more concerned about the great brand draw that it had, because it had such some familiarity. Even though people weren't necessarily familiar with 3M window film, they're familiar with 3M as a brand for their whole life. So to me, that was, when I think 3M, I think the film that everybody knows about. And then from there, of course, the film has to last. If it doesn't last, then it doesn't matter if it's attractive and shiny, because if it goes bad in a few years, that reflects on you. That's going to cost you money. That's going to be a waste of everybody's time. And I feel like 3M is just the perfect example. I feel like it's probably the least asked, who makes 3M? Who cares who makes 3M? Because it has a 3M stamp on it and people want it,
Yeah. Dan, great point. Thank you. Thanks for the vote of confidence too, Dan.
So moving up, Christina said thank you.
By the way, Eric, real quick,
Sure.
Just to let you know, Dan, so this is for everybody, I've done business with Dan for about 15 plus years, but Dan's entire company, I mean, his father was in the business. I mean, they've been in the industry for maybe 30, maybe 40 years. Eric, they were one of the pioneers. I mean, they go back very,
Back to
very
the liquid
reputable.
tint, probably.
Probably, yeah. Probably. Very, very reputable, yeah.
Speaking of, I don't know if you've seen, somebody's been promoting a movie that they're going to come out with. It's a little behind on the release date, but it's called like Flow On or something like that. And there's a trailer for it. Looks really good. And, if anybody knows about it or if there's any way anybody can help, I can't wait to see this come out because the promo for it, I think it's called like Flow On Tinting or something like that. And it basically takes you back to the beginnings of window film and so on. And it just looks really well produced and I can't wait to see it release. And so, yeah, there's that. So, questions. Paul asked, how many film company owners are you actually able to pick up the phone to talk? Keep it up, Harry. We love the film. I guess what Paul's saying is he can get in touch with you on the phone, whereas most window film manufacturers, you call up and you don't speak to the founder. That's for sure, right? You might not even speak to a district manager, district rep. You're going to speak to customer service, right?
Yeah, Paul, thank you. Thanks for the vote of confidence on there. Look, Eric, I go back to something we were talking about earlier, is that I don't want to be the system. So we have put systems in place, whether it's proper CRMs in place, to where my focus can be my customer instead of just forecasting and production and machines and so forth. My goal, and again, I go back to, you guys are going to get tired of me talking about Jeff Bezos. So Jeff says he doesn't work. He works at anything that is 3 years in the future or more. He doesn't work on day-to-day operations. My goal at Veloce is to be there for my customers. And, for those that knew the company that I worked for, in 2001, we had 3 employees and we had barely 20 customers. And when I left, we had over 350 to 400 customers in the USA alone. And everybody knew that if my phone rang, I picked up because I know that if my customer is thinking about us, they're giving us an opportunity. And that's the biggest compliment that I could give to my customer. And the biggest service is I drop everything I'm doing to focus in on the customer. So, Paul, you're right. Thank you. And yes, Christina, I'm going to keep picking on Christina, and I'm not calling you Christina again, man. So, Christina and I spoke. She knows that we take it takes to build customers and to be there for them. It takes one person at a time. I spoke to Christina yesterday for 30 minutes that she inquired about.
So I want to touch on that subject because it actually it brings up a subject that is really dear to me and very relevant to TintWiz, but I think goes forth in everybody's business. So not just TintWiz, not just Veloce, but actually within window film companies, everybody. So while it is nice to be, to have that one-on-one connection with the business owner, founder, manager, the person, your point of contact, what to me is more attractive and the way we're implementing things with TintWiz is I would rather, if I'm on the consumer end, if I'm the one interacting, not on the business end, I would rather interact with a company that has the smoothest path for me. So what I mean by that is I don't necessarily want to have to speak to somebody. I would rather never have to speak to somebody because everything's so easy and clear. So an example of that would be like Amazon. If I have a problem with Amazon with my package, I like that I can go to my account, I can click a couple times, and it'll process a refund or get me a replacement item. I don't want to call the owner of Amazon or anybody at Amazon and talk to them about it. So what I'm saying is what I think is most attractive is something you mentioned was systems in place, because while talking to somebody is attractive, that doesn't actually work. It's not scalable. It's not long-term. Harry, you can be talking to people right now, but at the end of the day, if your business goes 1000x, it's not going to happen. You're just not going to happen. And then what happens at that point is people are actually getting worse customer service than they would have got another way because everything's one person. So something like bringing it back to TintWiz, your fastest way to support when you need something is our live chat. Our live chat's actually manned by us, people that have answers for you and can answer them super fast. That also helps us organize questions that come inbound to us, so that we can then answer those questions or solve any problems or make things clear for the future. So I just feel like a smooth system will outpace and actually work and is more attractive than that direct communication. So
I'm going to agree with you, but I'm also going to disagree with you at the same time. And I'm going to basically agree with you on a certain segmentation of the market that is a systems oriented, which is the Eric Vivaches of the world and so forth. But if you fast forward about 15 years into the 15-year age range, those are people that still want to talk to people. And I'm not saying, and I'm talking from a consumer perspective.
Understood. Yeah. However, I push back to that because while they may want to talk to somebody, and maybe that still be something that during this transitional period is still offered. I'm not saying it shouldn't be offered, but while they may want to talk to somebody, I feel like a lot of times when they're corralled into a better way, they see the light. And I just feel like something like Amazon, if you talk about online purchases 10 years ago, people in a 50 plus generation is going to say, I'm not putting my credit card on the computer. 15 years ago, I'm not putting my credit card on the computer. And now there's plenty of people 70 years and up that are ordering from Amazon and not questioning it. And if there were other options, sometimes then, they never get to that wow moment, I guess is all I'm saying.
No disagreement. No disagreement. What I'm saying is that, look, systems definitely in place, but there are certain things, we have to take people to where the market is headed. Was it Henry Ford or something that said, if I asked my customers what they wanted at the time before I built my first vehicle, they would have said faster horses, right?
That's an awesome quote. That's an awesome quote.
Have you heard that?
I hadn't, but that's spot on what I'm saying. It has to be a combination.
We have to lead people as well in terms of technology. Yeah.
Sure. So thank you, Mark. Mark said, gotta go, but good luck, HR. I assume that's you. So thank you, Mark, for checking it out.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah.
And Mike is suggesting possibly you be vice president in 2020 along with Donald Trump.
All right, listen, I'm in.
make the film industry great again, Mike Powell said. Sully Geo said still waiting on a sample package. So sample package, I assume that's sample packages from Veloce. Yeah. So anybody can knock off some birds with a stone. Anybody who needs a sample package, what do they need to do to reach out to you?
Sure. Look, and this goes. I'm going to touch on two things real quick. Number one is Sully. If we drop the ball on that, or if you've requested one, then we'll make sure either we get you a tracking number or we'll figure out where that's at. Second thing I want to touch on is, Eric, as we grow, I agree with you. It's not sustainable to talk to every single customer, but I really feel that having the right type of people, and I want to give a shout out to Carol Lockwood. Carol Lockwood is an amazing woman, and she is service oriented. She's been a customer. She's just amazing. And if you've not spoken to Carol Lockwood, spend about 5 minutes talking to her to see how an amazing person she is. So she helps and she handles part of our sales process as well. But Sully, we will definitely, going back to you, get you a packet. I just made the note of that.
Yeah, and Christina also said Harry was one of the first to respond to me after reaching out to a few different people. I appreciate that. Yeah, getting back to people is super freaking important, and it's appreciated that you do that, Harry. But I feel like every single tinter needs to know that your customers appreciate the same thing. So when a lead comes in, the time it takes you to respond to them does play a factor in whether you get that job, their overall perception, and so on. You will start off on the right foot, and you will hear that feedback when people say, wow, you got back to me so quickly. And you say, yeah, you're super important. How can I help you? That's the right foot.
And if you want to look on that note, having an attendant on your website is actually a pretty good thing. That is, look, a lot of those decisions are made a lot of those decisions are made in the evening, where people are sitting doing some research, and if they send you a message and you have an online attendant that you can respond to, I want to give I think you had Max on last week. If you want to look at it, I believe it's rcwindowfilms.com, right?
Yeah.
Look at his website. He's got an attendant on there, and he's on there, and he's actually got a picture of himself as the attendant as well. So,
the key there is
incorporate.
If you're going to have a live chat is definitely the way to go. Just make sure if you have a live chat, you have to monitor it. It's got to be you. It can't be outsourced. It can't be nobody responds to live chat. If I start live chatting with somebody, I expect a response. So I would just keep that in mind, because I feel like it can be attractive, but if you don't actually monitor it. But if you do monitor it, it's the best way. And like I said, it's the way we communicate with customer support on our end.
And you don't have to monitor it all day. You can monitor it on there, till like maybe 9 p.m., 8 p.m., whatever your thing, and then you can say after that, hey, please send a message over here.
Put an away message.
Yes, but at least it's better than the 5 p.m. close, and it'll send you a text message or however it is.
A lot of people are working from 8 a.m. They get off at 5 or 6, and that's when they need to make their decision. And I know from my perspective as a flat glass, when I used to have a flat glass company, being open from maybe 6 p.m. till about 9 p.m., we'd schedule 2 to 3 consultations every single day, just between those 3 hours that everybody else is closed. Then on a Saturday, we'd get another maybe 4 to 6, 4 to 8 scheduled. And on a Sunday, maybe another 4 to 5, 4 to 6 consults scheduled. And when you extrapolate that over the week, that's huge. And over the year, that's huge. Why? Because we're the only ones open. Because nobody else is open. And what does open mean? Open means answering your phone. That's what it means these days.
Look, Eric, car dealerships don't stay open till 9 o'clock because they love to be hanging out there, right? They know, because the people are getting off of work, they're doing some research, they're stopping by to test out things.
Yep, that's 100% correct. So let's see here. Paul said loving Tint Whiz, by the way. Thank you, Paul. Love to see you loving Tint Whiz. And Mike seems to love Carol. I love Carol as well. I had the chance to meet Carol for the first time at the Window Film convention in Indianapolis back in September, and she's just one of those people, you meet her and she becomes like your family in like 10 seconds. Your family minus the drama in 10 seconds. So
for sure.
all love to Carol. So while we get some more questions in here, we do have quite the audience watching, about 30 people watching right now live. So thank you all for watching live. I do want to kind of just jump into the automotive stuff. So Harry, you mentioned that, obviously cars are one of your passions. You've posted some pictures of yourself at car meets. When we met, I think for the first time in person in Houston, you took me for a ride in a car that in a Dodge Viper. And I feel like, to me, I can tell you that being a car guy myself, that was a bonding point from me to you. Like you were at the time, you were, my window film supplier, and that kind of took it to my more like a friend level. So tell me more about your car passion, and then I think that's a good segment into what I know you have planned for this year that's automotive related for Veloce. Yeah.
It goes back. My car passion is kind of amazing. I remember when I was 5 years old, I got these cars, these little Matchbox cars, until the age of 18. You know how, Eric, people throw their cars around and stuff?
Yeah.
Until the age of 18, I had these cars, and they were still untouched, and I would play with them, those little Matchbox cars, and I'll put them in a little bit in a corner. And I don't know if you can see. Can you see the Lamborghini back there? I mean, first of all, you see that up there.
Oh,
see
yeah.
that little, yeah. So there's some cars. Turn it just a little bit. I just love cars. So anyway, I can't afford all of those, so I just kept them there in the meantime. So this is motivation. So I love cars. Always love cars. I love all sorts of cars. I love antiques. I love the. In fact, what I want. One of my cars that I want is a '65 Lincoln. Right.
Okay.
So,
is that the suicide doors? The Continental?
Yeah, that a convertible. So I want a Lincoln. I love Italian cars. Lamborghinis are my favorite. I love Ferraris. I love all of them. But Lamborghini, and that's where the name Veloce comes from. Veloce comes from, if you've seen a Lamborghini, there's an SV version. The SV stands for super veloce, super fast. Right? So that's where Veloce came from. Love Ferraris. I love American cars. I love American cars. The big engines, the Dodge Vipers, the Corvettes, and all of the American cars. I love Japanese cars. I'm more into the. I'm not a big Japanese guy, right? I like big engines and so forth. American, British cars. I love those. I love McLarens. A bunch of stuff. So anyway, that's on the car side. Maybe I'll
What do
be
you think
able
about
to.
Teslas?
I love Teslas. Yeah, I love Teslas. I love Teslas.
Have you had a chance to ride in a fast one yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got one of my best friends that I drove a P100.
Okay.
Right. The S, and then I've got one of my other friends has the Model X with the gull wings. Also the P100. That thing is faster than my sports cars. Right. So I mean, they change. You talk about changing the rules of the game. Who would have said that this electric car 10 years ago or 15 years ago would outpace some of the fastest cars, Lamborghinis and Ferraris out there? I mean, it's amazing how they just changed the rules of the game, and I look up to them.
Yep, I remember being at drag races, street races back when 15, 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Yeah, join the club.
And I just, 20 years ago now. And I remember being at drag races and, people would be like, oh, the cars are going to be electric in the future. And you're looking at this muscle car, on the street. And then it's like, cars are going to be electric. I felt like when cars are electric, life will have no meaning. Life will have no purpose anymore at that point. Like, I'll have nothing to do. I'll have no hobby, no nothing. And then now, turns out, if you can get in an electrified car, you're going to be faster than just about absolutely anything on the street, and it's a feeling you've never felt before. So that's some innovation.
Yes.
So on the automotive subject, I feel like it segues perfectly into what does Veloce have planned for automotive this year?
So our automotive brand is called Veloce Automobilia. Right? And our focus in Veloce Automobilia is, again, innovative products, innovative marketing, and innovative partnerships. Right? So today there are some good brands of auto films out there, and they're doing a good job. I think that one of the issues in our industry is that most suppliers target and focus in on dealers. They're trying to sell to dealers.
Like car dealers, like the actual dealers, you're saying?
No. So the dealers as well,
tint
like
dealers.
Tint dealers as well as car dealers. But their focus is on a business-to-business level, right?
Sure.
Our focus is we're going to our vision is we want to sell to the dealer, but we want to market to the consumer.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So if we can help. One of the things that has happened well is that has gone well is that the automotive market has actually grown. We see a decent number of cars. The penetration of window film in the automotive market is pretty good. So we're looking at doing things slightly differently. Our focus, again, sell to the dealer. And the other problem that I'm seeing right now is that there's a conflict of interest. And I'll be doing on my Thursday videos, I'll be doing a segment on conflicts of interest with suppliers. One of the issues that I see going on right now is that many suppliers are trying to go bypass their dealers and sell directly to car dealers. And I'm just using that one as an example.
Sure.
And it really undermines what this industry has done in over there. So if you're with a supplier that is going around you and you're in the automotive business, you need to look in the mirror and say, who do I want to support? Do I want to support my supplier going to the car dealership that I'm servicing right now, right? Or do I want to support so there's quite a few conflicts of interest. But going back to what Veloce is going to be, our focus is that we want products beyond window films as well. We don't want to limit it to just films or liquid coatings. We have some things that we are working on that will help change the automotive landscape just a tad bit. But again, it's going to be partnerships. It's going to be the marketing, and it's going to be on the product side.
So Billy said, isn't that the way it should be? The window film companies offer us a tiny kickback for branding their film. So what do you think about that?
So I'm sorry, repeat the question. I don't quite get the question.
I kind of need Billy to repeat the question too, because I don't completely get the question. He said, isn't that the way it should be? The window film companies offer us a tiny kickback for branding their films. So I think I'm taking it, if I take it literally, I'm going to say, just take the second sentence. The window films offer us a tiny kickback for branding their films. I feel like they kind of do. A lot of the tint companies do, manufacturers do offer what they call a co-op. They'll give you like basically some money back towards marketing, towards film purchases, or sometimes in the form of a check. And you have to show them that the money you've spent marketing their company. So if that's what you mean, Billy, what do you think about that?
Eric, I'm not a big fan of that at all, and not the co-op side. I'm just saying that little piddly winky 3, 4, 5% that you get, or you get 5%. You were making 50% on that, and now you're making 5%, and then they have the issue of, well, did you actually create it, or did we create it, or did they just find out from a customer, and how did they trace it? So our philosophy is that, Billy, you are onto something, and you may not even realize what you're onto, but when I say innovative marketing products, and most importantly, partnerships, that is something we should talk about. So I'm not, Eric, at liberty to go into details right now, but within the next 3 to 4 months, you will see something that Veloce is doing that is very unique, that centers around the window film dealer. Instead of bypassing the dealer, we are using, in innovative partnerships, our dealers to forge relationships that are mutually beneficial, that not just gives them an opportunity today, but tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. It's pretty exciting. It's really exciting because Billy hit on something, and maybe Billy is just ahead of his times, and maybe if he is, then we need to talk to Billy.
I definitely think we need to talk to Billy. I'd love to have Billy on here, and I feel like you need to talk to Billy too.
Sure.
Billy's been around for a long time. So Billy did say, yes, I'm not a fan of co-ops. And, the way I look at it is there's two ways this can go. Either tint shops or manufacturers are going to provide all the tools needed for a tint shop to sell their window film. And that also includes the marketing, the brand awareness, everything consumer facing and so on. And then as a tint shop, your responsibility is open the doors every day, do a great job, buy film, sell film, and you're good to go. Or the direction it's actually going in now is, as a tint shop, you are your own shop. You are going to sell the products from different companies that you want to sell. You are going to market your own company for the most part. You're going to market the name of your window film company, and they're going to just be suppliers. Just like if you go into like a customization, like let's say you go into like a car stereo shop. You're not going into a shop that only sells one brand speakers. They have a wall of speakers, and you listen to them all. The customer picks them, and so on. But at the same token, you can look at a model like a Subway, an obvious model, and say, well, would it be better if each individual Subway was doing their own marketing for their sandwiches? And you'd say, of course not. So it seems like, it's going towards more independence, and the brands are doing less and less for that public awareness than it's been. What do you think?
And Eric, it is going that way, but at the same time, I think that as a window film dealer, if you are selling a product that is mass marketed, then really your focus really should be just mainly on your brand. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to just expand the brand for the 3% co-op that you're going to pay. If you spend $10,000, Eric,
so
you get 300 back.
In the current environment, I completely agree with you. I just feel like there is opportunity in the industry for a company to come in, a window film manufacturer to come in and say, hey, we're going to do, let me give you an example. Ceramic Pro, I feel like, is the example that I bring up often, and they're not exactly what I'm talking about, but they're darn close, because you're talking about a company who's come in and said, hey, we're going to sell you ceramic coatings, but we're also going to teach you how to sell the coatings, how to install the coatings, how to hire people, how to text message your customer, how to follow up with them. We're going to provide leads. We're going to make the videos that you can share. We're going to. They're making it to where you can come in and you kind of have all the resources at your disposal, and you can even license their name, and your shop can be Ceramic Pro St. Louis. But what I'm saying is, I think there's opportunity to take it steps further to where, you could want to have XYZ window film brand as the front of your business because it's so great and it's such a booming thing.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's very difficult, Eric. You're right? So I think that you will see some of that in our innovative partnerships and the way we're doing business. You're going to see that. You will definitely see that. But it's very difficult to take a structure that is already there and try to unite them, right? It's very difficult because
Difficult means opportunity.
Right, but they have to first unite the group, and there has to be some common sense of belonging before you're able to just go do something where everybody feels. So when we don't feel secure, we tighten up and we close up, right? So when we feel secure, so the first thing that has to happen is, and the way Ceramic Pro does it, is that they have very tight territories. Those territories seem to become
They don't, though. They don't really have tight territories. They might have started out with tight territories, but I tell you, they're not honoring tight territories anymore.
No, I see that. I see those territories really going down. Yeah.
I feel like where Ceramic Pro is excelling is simply they've built over the last few years the brand awareness. They've built the infrastructure for their dealers. You're able to go from washing cars to being a Ceramic Pro installer and take your business from I'm a guy who works at a car wash to I'm doing hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s a year in sales, and my garage is full of Ferraris. And that's the sort of, I feel like that builds the level of trust and commitment. Now, where they go with that and how they handle that as a larger company and the things that change, that's yet to be seen.
Right, but again, I mean, you've got to give credit where credit is due. So, I mean, anybody can go up or down. So, understood. But I think that I think you'll be again the partnerships when my focus is make people feel secure.
Sure.
Once they're secure, they open up. If they're not secure, it's all going to be like close to the chest.
And by open up, you mean like what happens from there when you say open up? They trust.
So yes. Once you make them feel secure, once you give them that level of trust, then what happens is they open up and they embrace opportunity. If they don't trust you, then it's all going to be like, hey, this is mine. Stay away from here.
And that kind of comes full circle to the thing you said at the very beginning of this live stream, which was what was the number one thing you've seen across all the successful dealers? And you said being open, right? Being open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that really is.
You look at, I've got a friend, James Beal at NGS. I mean, if you look at National Glazing, if you look, he's a really amazing guy. He's a good friend of mine. But if you look at what he has done at NGS, it's amazing. I mean, he started up and he built the largest company, not only the largest, I think it's the largest by far. And some of the things that they do are just pretty amazing.
Yeah. I see the buildings. They post a lot of buildings. I think they just added to their fleet, and I see the posts. So yeah, they seem like they're doing.
But more than just look, they're big companies out there. More than just a big company.
Yeah.
This guy, if you look at his team, he actually cares, and his partner Patrick as well. Good people. Wanted to throw a shout out to them.
So in the comments, Paul said, "Trust the process." Definitely have to trust the process. You have to know where you're going, and then you have to trust and go and head in that direction, regardless of what comes your way.
Good point.
Mike said Billy would be a great cast. Billy said, I have the answer to why the manufacturers haven't done this. I'm super curious. Billy, if you could put that in the comments, I'll read it now. If you want to wait until you're live, we could do that too, whatever works, but I definitely want to know your take on it. And
I spoke to Billy last week. He was quite, for a guy that's been doing this a while, he was quite, he was very open, and he was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely. So We're at about an hour and a half mark. There's no time limit on this, but I don't see any other comments coming in. So I just kind of want to ask you, what would you say the one and most important takeaway that somebody watching this should take away? You said keeping an open mind and so on. Give us something else. Give us that
Question
golden
yourself.
ticket.
Yeah,
Question yourself?
always question yourself. You know, if you take a certain drive to work tomorrow, weighs it and see if that's the right drive to take. Don't just take that route because that's what you've been taking. Weighs it and make sure it's the same one. You know that when I used to go to work every day, I would Waze every day, and every day, Eric, it may be a slightly different route of going to work. So question yourself. Don't do things just because you've done it. Ask yourself again, and make sure that the route that you're taking in business, in your personal life, is the one that is right, rather than just the one that you have taken.
Old ways won't open new doors.
Well said. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Harry. Thank you for everybody who joined us live, everybody who watches us after live. Harry, thank you for taking the time to answer everyone's questions. If you have any other questions that we didn't answer yet, please leave them in the comments. We'll get them answered. And then we'll be back on Tuesday with our normal Tint Wisdom, where it's just me talking for an hour or so, sharing my wisdom. And then next Thursday, we're going to be joined again with a guest, same time, same place. And next week's guest is going to be Jacob with H2O Window Tinting in Florida. He is a window film and window tint company. He also does ceramic coatings and so on. So we'll be able to get his perspective on his growth. I know he's doing extremely well. He's one of the shops that I'm mentioning is just like booming, like busting at the seams during the winter. So it'll be cool to get him on here and get some insight into how he's been able to accomplish that. So, Harry, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you next Tuesday.